there was this realization that, I think when it comes to any kind of social media like this, there's so much out of your control that you need to just focus on things that are in your control. You need to focus on the things that bring you joy in the process and hold on to those, because you can hold on to those.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a controversial show, as I have here Mr. Infinite Singles Man of infamous internet dating website InfiniteSingles.com. How you doing?
Good. And it's only Finites is actually what we were going with.
Only Finites. That's a good rebrand. As that's very important, as I wanted to talk to you about the challenges of running an internet dating website in the era of AI. So if we could just get into that.
Yeah, I mean, being a singularity myself, I just kind of it just gets done. So.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How would you describe your online presence?
Oh, I have many online presences. That's a word, right? I've been known for making a few OBS plugins, which I love to do.
My favorite ones.
Retro effects.
Yep.
You were the inspiration for it, and thank you so much for all the feedback and the tips on it, because it's a banger. I mean, I absolutely love that plugin, and a lot of that has come from your feedback and ideas and whatnot. So it's been incredible. But yeah, I was one of the, I mean, not a kid because I'm older than almost everyone on Twitch, but one of the COVID kids who started streaming over COVID.
Right.
Software developer for a long time, doing my own thing, and was able to show live coding for what I was working on. And I'd love to educate. And I realized early on, coding on stream isn't always the most entertaining thing in the world. So I decided I wanted to start adding some fun effects and things like that. I've always loved visual effects and that sort of thing. And that my chat can control while I was programming. And there were a lot of things I couldn't do. And one thing led to another, and started writing OBS plugins, and they've been downloaded a few times. So it's been a journey.
Just a few times. Just
a few.
A number of times.
Yes.
A non-zero number of times.
Yes.
It's all me just hitting refresh and download, over and over.
Yeah, well, I bet your keyboard is.
Yes.
Every time I check the number, it's so surreal to me. I always say, I don't know if I would have actually started doing it if I'd have known how many people were going to download them.
Yeah.
Because I take my, I look at software as like this very creative endeavor. And I take it very seriously when people are using my software. And with the numbers that are using it, it scares the hell out of me sometimes. I mean, it's like, wow, last I checked, it was well up over 1.5 million downloads between the plugins. And it's just like, whoa.
Yeah, that's bananas. It's also fun to see, like, at one point in time, all of the focus was on, like, the most realistic, hyper clean corporate whatever. And it's like a lot of people want to mess their stuff up.
Yep.
So you got started during the COVID times.
I did, yes.
What inspired you to stream coding? Because that's always been one of the things where, like, your streams have always been more fun, but there were some, especially like right before COVID, where there'd be no face cam. It would just, and back then they would start streaming at like 1440p before that was like a normal thing, because it was just all text. Like, it was easy to compress. And I'm just like maybe the person would like speak up every once in a while, and otherwise it's just this. And I'm like, who tunes into this? Yours are a bit more fun, but I am curious what the motivation for.
So the motivation actually started off with my kids watching Twitch, and I was aware of Twitch, but I was like, I better check this out, because they were like, 10 and 6 at the time. The 6-year-old wasn't watching it, but the 10-year-old was starting to watch, Fortnite and that kind of stuff. And as I'm like clicking through, just watching some stuff on Twitch, going, oh my God, what has the world come to? I stumbled across this science and technology category, and I was like, ooh, that sounds cool. So I jumped on in, and there were people live coding. And like you, I said to myself, who the heck would ever watch this?
Right.
And there was one that had quite a few people watching, a streamer by the name of Bald Bearded Builder. He happens to be bald. He has a big beard, and he builds stuff. It's pretty good branding, right?
Yep.
And Michael is his name, and he is incredibly entertaining, incredibly fun to watch, and loves to educate with what he's doing. I have a very deep background in academia, having been to grad school, done the
Right.
PhD, all that. My favorite part of grad school was teaching. And so I was like, oh, well, this might be a fun way to, interact with humans when we're all in lockdown, but I can also kind of work out those teaching muscles a little bit. And so that really was the inspiration. I jumped into Bald Bearded Builders Discord and started chatting with people. And after, a week or so of chatting with them, they were like, with what you program, we need that on the platform. So go for it. And like my first stream, I had like 10 people. So I was lucky that I never had to go through the whole like streaming to no one thing that so many people have to do. But a lot of that work was building community beforehand, and that community kind of hopped over and they were really supportive of it. So that was really the inspiration, wanting the chance to teach programming again, because I absolutely love doing that.
And I guess there is some advantage when you're either presumably setting out with an end goal of coding something or just teaching what you're doing in real time, that you're not as susceptible to the whole like waiting for that viewer number to go up to 1 and be like, oh, who showed up to the stream? Hi, you're here. Oh, you left. Okay, never mind. Back to Fortnite.
Yeah, exactly. It's nice because I mean, when I started it, and we've talked a little bit about this for some of the YouTube stuff that I'm doing. I've got this deep background in academia. So, I mean, planned out lectures and slides. And I didn't quite go to that extreme, but I would be like, I'd have a whole outline of what I wanted to accomplish on the stream with the code and what I wanted to cover and the concepts I wanted to focus on. And that went out the door in about 3 streams, right? It started to then be like, okay, this is a much more organic nature with streaming and teaching. And frankly, I enjoy it a lot more doing it that way, running into problems. And, some people will say, oh, you're making yourself vulnerable because you could run into a problem and in front of the, all the people watching, you could screw something up or not be able to solve a problem. And I was like, that's what people don't see about programming. And for me, showing those struggles and whatnot, that brings it up a level. I mean, I might be naive. People might be looking at me going, God, this guy couldn't code his way out of a wet paper bag. But in my mind, I'm just showing these are the struggles you run into sometimes when you're coding, and that high you get when you figure it out and it works. It's great.
Yeah.
So.
No, I even obviously not in the coding side for me, but even in just the tutorial space, like so many of my first tutorials were me fumbling around basically for the first time, even with OBS back in the OBS Classic days. I was like, I got a general gist of this program. I'm just going to open it up and record how to do stuff. And then I'd be like, and then you'd go over here for this setting. Oh, it's not there. That's weird. All right, never mind. It's over here. And like, from a pure step-by-step following perspective, I started to remove some of that over the years, but then as I've kind of done more of that again, I've gotten compliments from people, if nothing else, in the like you said, the problem-solving stage. Sometimes that mistake you made or like didn't solve for your specific problem is still the solution for someone else, or you're just showing the critical thinking process, which like I feel like gets so removed now because it's like, I built a NASA tier rocket that I'm gonna, this is obviously hyperbole, but like that I'm gonna fly to the moon on, watching this video, and it's like, I started with a cardboard tube, and then bam, we had a whole aluminum hull, and then I was off to the moon, and it's like, how did you?
The owl meme, right?
And something I've gone back, my wife and I have been watching a ton of Mythbusters the past 6 months or so. Something I love is watching the experts who build like robots and models and stuff. They'll start with like the rocket example, a 2-liter and a paper cone to do their like initial model. And it's like, that is accessible. And that provides you that kind of like entryway to be like, I could learn that. I could start there. And like, there's so much value there that I feel like gets cut off for the sake of retention, which I guess I kind of want to poke your brain about. I don't dive into a lot of the streaming stuff these days, but something I find fascinating as like, for a while, it felt like, and this was before you even started streaming, but like we had this big purge in 2016 with what was called the adpocalypse. YouTube got really messed up. YouTube had to do a lot of work to clean it up. And during that time, Twitch took off. And like everyone, at least in the gaming space, and it started to pick up in other categories, basically just fled YouTube for Twitch because it was this real-time interaction. They didn't have to put in the work to produce a video, and people were just throwing money at them. It felt like for a long time, YouTube and Twitch kept converging on the same kind of content. All the people who made scripted videos and production value stuff would just do forehead reaction cam. You killed me in Trouble and Tear It's Down or whatever. And that was the thing. But now we've kind of split again, and YouTube has gone all Mr. Beast, retention, hyper optimized jump cuts everywhere. But Twitch can't do, like, you can't do that when you're live. You have to just have dead air and like go with the flow. And I'm curious what you think about like keeping someone's focus, especially with such a niche like subject matter. Like, what do you do or not do, I guess, with regards to like holding someone's attention when you are doing a multi-hour stream of text on a screen?
Well, I think, you know, the first question is, and I think you sort of were getting at that in this, is how much do we actually need to hold their attention? Right. So much, I think, especially in the niche I'm in, where you're live coding and doing things, it's almost more of a co-working stream. I kind of see my viewers split there. I kind of have a good three-way split of viewers. I have my old regulars who have been there for a long time, who are co-working, and you know, I've heard from them, hearing you work through problems while I'm working on my own code. Half the time they don't even have the video up; they're just listening to the audio. It just kind of helps me go about my day and do my thing because I work from home, and it's nice hearing another voice working things out. So that's probably about a third of my viewers. Another third of the viewers are people who are interested in programming and just want to kind of see how the sausage is made, right? And they're coming in to see, what is it like to be a programmer? And they're my most probably interactive group, who they're fairly engaged because they're wanting to learn the techniques. They want to see what you're doing. They're asking questions. And I think as a live coder, one thing I had to kind of learn to do is to start verbalizing what I was doing while I was doing it, which was a little awkward at first, but I actually found it helps a lot because when you go through that process of converting it to words, a lot of times you figure out bugs before they even become bugs because of that different
stepping through
process.
The logic already, and then you're like, oh wait, no, I can't do that.
And then the other thing is to be able to take questions, sort of interrupt your process, answer the question, and then get back into it. So that's like one of the skills, I think, that if anyone's going to live code, it helps a lot with the stream, and that helps that engagement on the stream. And then sort of the third silo that I have now, which is my growing silo, are streamers who want to see what the next OBS plugin or what effects or whatever we're going to have. And they're wonderful too, because they're quiet while I'm doing the work. But then when we actually start testing and showing, they're jumping and going, oh, I saw this little glitch up here. You know, they're identifying issues with the actual output and things like that. So I think some of it is actually the structure of your stream and what you're doing. You may not have to think too much about engagement. But in terms of engagement, I mean, this kind of stuff that we do on stream, right? I mean, who doesn't want to turn into a Star Wars hologram, or, you know, drop a TV on your head, or do any of these other effects, or my clones that come out of the door and talk to me? But making that triggerable by the viewers through channel point redemptions on Twitch. When things get a little boring, the clones start coming out, the effects start going in. And the funny thing is, when things start getting annoying, when a bug is really getting under my skin, chat will troll me with certain clones of mine that come out and berate me for it, things like that. And most of the time it like lightens the mood. There was one particular time, there's a clip of it where I literally rage quit the stream because it was like the clone came out and like basically insulted the exact thing that I was doing. And these are all pre-recorded, right? And it just happened to line up perfectly. And I got up from my desk and I walked away, and I came back and I turned off the stream because it was a problem I'd been working on for like 2 hours and I couldn't figure out. And so it adds to I think that adds to the engagement too, because people are just like, they don't know what to expect.
What do you have to do anything to rate control and like mitigate there being too much of that? Because something I've
Oh
always
yeah.
worried about with the viewer redemptions is I'm sitting here trying to like explain something or like
Yep.
really showcase something, and they'd just be like, "We're gonna pop the camera over here. We're gonna do this," and I'm like, "No,
Yep.
stop it! I'm
Yep.
trying to talk."
So the two things I do with that, one is certain the one clone, Detective Jax, he's code
Yep.
enforcement. He's the one who torments me in my sleep sometimes. I've got him on like a 15-minute cooldown, so
Right.
he can only come out once every 15 minutes or so. Most of like the overlay effects, they don't interrupt anything. They just
Yep.
kind of change how I look on stream. So those I don't worry about too much. I mean, I think we have like a minute cooldown on them just so it doesn't get too overwhelming. And then when I'm doing something where I'm showcasing something, or I'm maybe trying to record something for a video, I turn the redeems off during that time. So I've got a button set up on my Stream Deck that I can just turn all the interactive redeems off, and it puts all those channel points
Lockdown mode.
on pause, and then turn them back on when we're done. So, and trust me, your viewers will let you know when you forgot to turn them back on.
That's fair. I had the recurring thing anytime I game streamed. It was guaranteed at least 4 times a stream. I would switch to talking head view in between matches and then jump into a match and not switch back.
And forget to switch
And,
back.
Yeah, it was at least like 4 times a stream if it was a long enough stream. Like every single.
Yep.
Yeah.
I do the same.
So alongside streaming, which you've now been doing for, let's not talk about how long it's been since the pandemic started.
Yeah. That was like 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, definitely. 2018 was 2 years ago. The
Yes.
90s were 10 years ago. Yeah,
Exactly.
Anyway,
Exactly.
you have started making YouTube videos as well.
I have.
Which
Yes.
is, I guess, not as uncommon these days of a path to go from Twitch to YouTube, but coming from back in my day, it was always YouTube, then Twitch, then back to YouTube.
Twitch, yep.
How has that been going? How do you feel about that?
I've had to adjust expectations a bit.
Yep.
Because I had a very good first world problem in that the first video I posted exploded.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, exploded. It had like, 30,000 views in like a week.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this YouTube thing is easy. Right? And then
that's all it takes. Okay, boom.
And then the next video I posted, didn't do much. Although that's my green screen video, which now is about to surpass that first wireless Stream Deck video I made in the long tail. Like 6 months after I posted it, started to get picked up, and now it's just you had told me it's evergreen content, and it has no. I mean, knock on wood, it has no signs of slowing down. It's just trajectorying upwards, and I have had a lot of really nice comments on it of people really appreciating it, and that's really I'm not like wanting to be some next big YouTube star or whatever. It's just I have this knowledge and I love to share the knowledge. Right. And so for me, it's finding that balance where, you put a video out that you spent, whatever. I'm still in the early stages. I suck at editing. So it's like 15 hours to get, a 10-minute video out. And then it gets seen by like, 102 people. Yeah. And I'm just like, I don't know if that's worth my time. Mm-hmm. At the same time, you get that one comment in where someone's like, I've been struggling with this in OBS for, 6 months, and wow, you just fixed the problem for me. Right. And suddenly it's like, okay, that was worth it. And I think it's just a matter of, people like to blame the algorithm a lot. I'm less blame the algorithm and more try to understand at least the basics of the algorithm, what it's doing. And I could tell the algorithm by looking at the stats. I've kind of got a little bit of a PhD in that stuff. That's what I actually did.
You happen to be good at this thing.
Yeah. And it's clear that it is searching for the right audience. And so it's a matter of just getting enough content out that it starts to reach that audience. And, I have no illusion that a OBS special effects video is going to get millions of views or anything. But, when you start reaching, 1,000 people or 5,000 or 10,000, I've never spoken to that many people at once. Like that's a
Couldn't fit
big
that many people in
crowd.
front of your desk.
Exactly. And so, finding that stage where I can put useful educational content out there that will be appreciated and used by folks, because at the end of the day, what I really like to do is share the knowledge that I gain. So.
Right. How, I mean, obviously you talked about it a little bit, but like
Mhm.
how does it change in your mind thinking about the quote unquote like success threshold for a video compared to your streams? Because you're obviously not getting 35K concurrence on a stream.
Yeah.
And I know
Yeah.
obviously they are completely different vehicles, but coming from
Yep.
streaming to then vehicles, how are you
Yep.
trying to like adjust your perception of what even you expect?
Yeah, so my whole thing with streaming was never about the number of viewers. I
Right.
mean, it sounds cliche and they always tell you don't look at the numbers. Of course I look at the numbers. I'm not one
Yeah.
who doesn't look at the numbers. But for me, because I started in COVID, and I started frankly because outside of my immediate family, I was a little lonely, right? We were all trapped inside, and
Yep.
it was a good way to build community. And so my stream has really turned into this small but really cool community of folks that I've gotten to know and consider friends. And, we chat a lot on Discord and other places. And so for my stream, it was much more about community building and then interacting with that community.
Mm-hmm.
For long form content, it is a bit more about getting it in front of eyeballs, because obviously you make this thing, you want it to be seen, but it's also more so about it being valuable to people. Right. So it's getting those comments that, hey, this really helped me out, or I'm working on this. Would you consider doing a video about it? It's sharing in that knowledge. And so seeing, and I guess that is community too.
Yep.
But I realize that, with YouTube, it's a much vaster pool in terms of, who's watching. And of those 150 views, 85 of them, they clicked in, they watched 30 seconds and clicked out, which didn't really land
Right.
what I was hoping to land either. So I think it's more about that, knowing that I'm bringing value and putting value out for something that happens to be a skill of mine that I like to share.
Right. Are you picking what you make, VOD videos off of differently than what you might show in streams, or is it purely something you can just show in a different format?
I don't think coding so much is the types of things I code is the format for YouTube.
Right.
These are bigger projects. An OBS plugin is extremely complex and has a lot of moving parts, and it would be almost impossible to long form video that in any way that people would watch for more than about 7 seconds, right?
Yeah.
And so I've looked at it more as a way to showcase what you can do with what was built then. So putting together that Star Wars hologram effect, how do you do that in OBS? I'm putting together a video right now on 5 really cool text effects you can do in OBS Live. They're like, After Effects quality text effects that you can have triggered live on a stream. And I've noticed there's a lot of people streaming and their text is boring because people don't know that you can do really cool stuff with text in OBS. And so it's a very different area of my brain that I'm working out. But an area that I've done on stream, we've done sort of showcase things on my stream where we build really cool scene collections and effects on stream, and people have really enjoyed them, and I've enjoyed doing them. So I've kind of embraced that side for YouTube, along with my hardware tinkering. I did the wireless stream deck, and I'm working on some other projects now, just because I absolutely love making with little circuit boards, little ICs and 3D printers and that sort of thing. So I like doing that content. That might be stretching me thin in terms of trying to approach too many different topics, although they're all streaming tangential, so hopefully not. But yeah, just basically like, do I enjoy doing this? If I enjoy doing it, there's probably other people out there that enjoy doing it too. So let's share it.
Right. Something I wasn't sure about. Were you working on the wireless Stream Deck project on stream as well, or did you purely keep that offline for the video?
I worked a little bit on it on stream. But not. I kind of sketched it out and kind of got some of the pieces together on a workbench on a stream one day and showed, oh yeah, I think we can make this work. And then the actual full thing I did in about 2 days. Like, I just got so excited about it. I was like, all
That's
weekend
fair.
long, I'm at my workbench and my wife is like, we got a soccer game to go to. Okay, fine, I'll go to the soccer game. Because I got really excited about it.
Can I take my soldering iron to the soccer game?
Yeah. Exactly. Although there's a new one I'm working on, which is taking these, again, one of these Stream Deck modules here, and I've made gotten a little breakout board for it so I can actually intercept the keystrokes and inject my own. And building, cool. Here's a little preview with the fun flip top switches and things like that. Along with a couple secret extras that I won't show for like a modular bring your own interface Stream Deck.
That's awesome.
And so that's going to kind of be the next one that I'm working on, which should be fun.
I'll have to send you some of my sketches. Last year, I think it was like over the summer, after having seen your wireless one and like before they came out with the module, which was hilarious after your wireless Stream Deck thing. I had sketched out a bunch of like fake gadgets that I could make with a Stream Deck built in. And my goal, and I shouldn't be saying this in videos, but I said it in my last interview talking to someone else anyway, so someone's going to scoop me on this. But like my goal is to make them as things I would use mostly as a gimmick, but as a thing, and then cover it as if it's a real product and just not ever acknowledge that it's like just make a dedicated commercial or video on this thing that doesn't exist. And just so like I have one that has like a webcam built in and it's just like finger cam or something, so that every time you jab it's just like and then like one that's like built into your mouse and like goofy stuff like that, but just cover it as if it's official,
a real product.
Not maybe not name Elgato specifically, but it's like the Stream Deck this or the Stream blah blah blah, and just be like, this is the thing. So I'm very excited to see what you do with the toggle switches and stuff, because
it'll be fun. It'll be fun.
I'm all about the,
and we were on stream. We
aesthetic.
were brainstorming things, and it was one of the most fun streams I ever have done, and it went so far off the rails. I almost ordered an Oldsmobile key, like the actual key, spring back, which would be on the side, and you had to use that to turn the thing on.
That's amazing.
Like a 1988 Oldsmobile, like key slot. It turned out that they don't come with the springs, and you have to build your whole mechanism. And I was like, okay, that'll be in version 2.0 because I do want to get this out this year, right?
No, I love ideas like that. Like there's this, I don't know if you saw in the Discord, there's this project called, I think, something like Reticulum. And it's basically a communications protocol that is completely agnostic to whatever you want to send it through. So like it's for like, disaster zone preparedness kind of thing, where you can just have internet over literally any connection. Like it doesn't need speed. It is pure just like over anything, but you could send messages, you could host your own internet. It would be really slow. And so I'm like, okay, I need to find all of the most esoteric, like NASA style connectors and just build a cyberpunk networking interface with this like 1950s connector, because it will just work as long as you can get wires up to some serial connection. And so I love projects like
with
that.
2 tin cans. One tin can plugs into like some device you made, and the other one you hold up to your ear.
Yes, exactly. Like I love repurposing old interfaces for that. Like Adam Savage does a bunch of that on like the tested videos and stuff, where he just finds connectors or like weird joints or whatever. And I love that kind of stuff. So you've been making long form videos with your streams.
Yep.
So that's super long form, then long form. Have you messed around with the capital S shorts ecosystem?
I have released one short.
Oh, one whole short.
as kind of a experiment. And it's a mindset I need to get into, which is a very like practical structural mindset. It's code is typically wide on the screen. My effects are typically kind of wide on the screen. And so it's hard to change your frame of reference to that portrait shape. If shorts were widescreen,
Yeah.
I have no issue doing it whatsoever. But it takes enough of a mind shift that I made a decision. I'm not opposed to shorts. I'm not a huge fan because obviously being an educator with attention spans going lower and lower, I don't like that aspect.
Right.
That said, I'm not opposed to the format in general. And so I think it's going to be one of those things that once I start to get comfortable with long form editing and things like that, I can start to stretch myself in sort of the shorts space. And I'd like to do it maybe in a way that's not so traditional because I don't care about the views. I don't know what that would look like, but just how can we start to use the short format to actually educate, right? I mean, if kids and individuals are getting so hooked on these shorts, is there a way that we can actually inject something, educational into it so that they learn something? And I know some folks are doing that. But maybe I can bring some of my knowledge to the table and we can, figure out a way to take it another step up, another incremental step. So, but that's a whole other project, and I don't have the brain space to do it at the moment. So.
Why not? It's not like you're not doing a million other things. So you've made videos, you still stream.
Mm-hmm.
As things have shifted, how have you seen your streaming experience shift over the past few years since coming back from pandemic times, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I think my perspective on streaming has changed. I say that I don't worry about the numbers. Now I don't. For a while I did. I went through kind of an experience post-COVID, in probably 2023, 2024, where my numbers would grow, and they were like getting above that like Twitch partner threshold, stupid check mark, right?
Yeah.
And they would sit there for like a month, and then they would drop back down to like 30 viewers. And then they would build. And so I just kept teasing with that kind of Twitch partner number. And I will admit, I got the bug. I was like, oh, this is actually going to happen. And then kind of 2025, it just dropped down to 20, 30 viewers and has just stayed there. And at first I was like, am I doing something wrong? Am I, is it me? What? And then I just had to step out of my own way and be like, no, it's less people are viewing, and this particular topic, with all of a certain very large live coding streamer who never coded, who was in the category that kind of blew up. We don't have to go into names, but he was bringing a lot of people into the category. And when he kind of dropped like a rock, the whole category kind of deflated, and everyone saw their numbers go down. And so there was this realization that, I think when it comes to any kind of social media like this, there's so much out of your control that you need to just focus on the things that are in your control. You need to focus on the things that bring you joy in the process and hold on to those, because you can hold on to those. And so seeing that sort of number fluctuation, I don't think I was ready, because you think I'm going to just grow and keep growing. And that's not the case. And so that was something, a change that I noticed in terms of the streaming. But outside of that, I mean, we have a great community over on my stream, and I would say probably 2/3 of the folks that were in early still hang out and are great people. And we have new people coming in every day. Some of them stick around for a stream or two. Some of them stick around, indefinitely. And so it's, focusing on that, which has been that way since the beginning, in that sense, there was no change. So I don't know if that really answered the question.
I think it does. I'm always curious because a lot of people really seem to not handle kind of the bubble popping, so to speak, of pandemic stuff. And it's been interesting on the YouTube side because it's not just been a kind of like return. Like things were building up and then shot up, and then things kind of dropped way lower than it was. But also like something that I have to work to keep in mind too is like, especially when it comes to covering the streaming side, which you
Mhm.
jump into, but it's not always your main focus, since you're building things.
Yep.
But like eventually you kind of reach all the people that need to like see a certain amount of thing.
Yep.
Like it's really easy to look at my first like how to stream to Twitch in HD for free videos from back in the day, which have like 1 million views, and be like, well, why can't every single how to stream on OBS video get 1 million views? It worked before, but like, there's not going to be 1 million new people every 6 months or whatever jumping into that and like being avid to like learn that. And it's just so much easier. Like everything changes, but I love that you're still focused on just like having the cool people hang out, because I feel like so many people forget about that, and then they're left with sometimes the people that stick around, if you haven't fostered that, are not the people you want to stick around. And so
and I think the other thing about what I do, especially, when we figure out, and I say the collective we, because my stream chat plays a big role in the plugins that get developed and what we do in the plugins. There's always a drive to do something cool with the plugin. Right here comes my 80s talk out, but you're right. But to do something that's just like, I mean, some of my effects on stream, someone new will be in and they won't have said anything, and something will happen on my stream, and they'll just be like, "What just happened? How did what?" Like, and these are even some of my old school ones that I developed from the beginning. And honestly, there's a like dopamine hit that comes with that when someone's just like, how did you do that? That's the coolest thing I've ever seen, right? And they're kind of old hat for my community, but it's hilarious watching them, because as soon as someone new comes in, like if we get a raid from someone new, or even like a big raid from someone, which we get from time to time, my community will start redeeming everything. They just, it's like overload, because like the community wants to show off what's been built too. And so there's that side of it too, which I think injects a little bit of new even into the old, right? It's constantly injecting something new, because there are always people who come in who haven't seen these things done. And when they are, they're as amazed as people were the first time I revealed it 4 years ago, right? And so it's a nice tale of fun that comes along with those things too.
No, I had a comment on my most recent video, which was about Project Hail Mary, and a wonderful comment. And they're talking about how like they love animation, and they've gotten into old school animation and had this project and had to get a webcam for it, and like they were just blown away that you could just like make artsy videos on YouTube and like have creative lens filters and all these things. And like, it's so easy when you're in a space to build up enough context that you just kind of assume is shared among everyone, because like you've been around for it, and it's just like out there. And like to this person, this is all brand new and like mind blowing. And it's like, this is why we do it. Like this is what makes it worth it. For whatever reason, you describing your raid scenario gave me an idea. And maybe you've already done it. I know sometimes I just hop into your streams and make demands of your effects and be like, well, why don't you do this?
Why did you do this?
But I'm imagining, we had talked about like rate limiting certain ones or whatever, certain effects. And I don't have a good tangible example for this offhand, although I could play around with them and probably come up with it. But like, say someone redeemed the hologram effect. I almost wonder if you could set up like a threshold, like a buffer of, if someone redeems another effect in a set amount of time while that one is going, that they start to interact and like really mess you up, like split you in half, and one's hologram and one's glitching, or like at first you're like in interlace VHS mode, but then like suddenly you go back to normal and your screen gets messed up and you got to be like, wait, where the hell did I go, or whatever. Like have them like start to, and I don't know what the setup for that.
That would be really neat. And a lot of it, I mean, someday we should do a stream and I'll just show you my OBS setup, because it's kind of,
I'm sure it would make me cry.
The hook. But I've done a lot to at least separate what I call background effects from foreground effects. And those can both play at the same time. I've got another effect that I use quite often where I turn into my dog. And these effects also work with all of the other effects, just like when I'm me, right? Cool, and so there's been all this layering. Oh, Sorry, wrong one. There's been all this layering that I've done to allow them to sort of interact in that way. So there's one thing that my community loves to do where one of the clones comes out, Jax, the one that torments me, and mid-sentence they use this effect that does the Loki prune effect where I disappear. And then my voice is coming from the void and I start like yelling at him from the void, so it's like we've kind of built our own like interactive craziness in combining the effects. But I think figuring out ways to ramp up the insanity as things get added in would be a really, really fun thing to do.
And with the switching to being Ollie, you got to get the like 90s talking dog effects where like when you talk it starts.
Yep. So there's lore with that dog vocal cords can only bark, and so the reason his mouth doesn't move while he's talking is because we have a thought translation collar on him that because his vocal cords just couldn't make human like voices. So and we use like from voice mod or something like the narrator effect. So it's a super deep like voice.
Hello, stream. I am dog.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you for chatting with me today.
Absolutely.
Always great learning about how people like you work. And I have been obviously a huge fan of your effects. And I have made several failed attempts at porting them to Resolve. One day I will convince you to, go through all the hassle of learning all these things because it's not the same at all. But, in my head, it's just like, just convert them.
Or you could do what I do. The first probably 5 YouTube videos I made, I only used editing software to splice together clips. Everything else was done in OBS live.
Yeah. No, I have like a VTuber thing that I need to use in videos more, but because I have to do it that way, I don't. But I literally am just gonna have to recapture my performance in OBS so I could translate it over. And
although with the VTuber, couldn't you plug the video through the VTube to have
probably
do the VTubing thing? So you just take your video and.
So, some of it's audio reactive, but some of it is like using like depth information from the camera and stuff. So it doesn't really work the same.
Got it. Okay.
But at some point I want a pipeline where it's super easy to just like loop out something from Resolve to OBS and then capture it right back and automatically be imported. But that's another 5 years.
And you don't have enough projects going on right now.
Not at all. People can find your stuff, Finite Singularity, on most platforms that you're on. Right?
If you just go to f15y.com. So instead of I-18 whatever is internationalization. So Finite Singularity has 15 characters between, and somehow f15y.com was available. I don't know why, but I grabbed it. So that is the website, and you can get my plugins there. You can find my YouTube stuff, my Blue Sky, and Twitch and everything. So
get the Retro Effects plugin. Get it now.
Yes, do that.
Wink, wink. All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay. You're very welcome.